box. Oh. Woo. Woo. Hello once again, folks. This is Wallace Ryan here, reporting to you live on tape from a secret location hidden way downtown in the historic St. John's, Newfoundland. And I'm here for yet another week of In the Library of Graphic Literature. Okay, folks. Love the old mother box. Not a huge week this week. Some cool new stuff and all that. Oh, by the way, do you like my beard? My granddaughter, she loved me with my beard, so I'm growing it back. It kind of looks a little bit cool anyway. Let's see, anything else on no big news this week. Actually, I had a few different requests through the site for all kinds of different ideas. Thanks a lot to everyone out there for sending in suggestions and the like. One actually wanted even to see some of my own work, so hopefully one of these weeks when it's slow now coming up, I'll do a little show and show you, maybe even show you around the library here itself. It's not a very big room. Basically it's probably about 10 feet that way. Yeah, it's about 20 feet wide, this room. And basically it's basically books all around except for where my drafting table is behind the camera here. So you're seeing a good bit of it anyway. This is the main collection, I guess. But yeah, and I'm going to do a couple of other features too. Someone had suggested, and I thought it was a great idea, of doing an examination of the Captain America Masterworks and then the omnibuses to go with it. Oh yes, actually this was the big news. Speaking of Masterworks, this week it was announced that the latest Masterworks to be is going to be Killraven. Yes. The classic comic from Don McGregor and P. Craig Russell. It's still one of my all-time favorite comics from the 70s. And I'd assumed that it was going to be hard for them to do because of the rights issues with the War of the Worlds and all that. But there's one thing, at least with Disney owning Marvel, it seems that they're going through and doing a lot of these. Next up, the 2001 A Space Odyssey. I want to see that collected from Marvel. You hear that, Marvel? Anyway, let's get down to work here. Let's see. First off, from IDW comes Lovecraft, The Myth of Cthulhu. Now, what's so cool about this one is that it's drawn by Esteban Maroto, one of my all-time favorite artists. He's absolutely incredible. If any of you are not familiar with him, you have to check out his stuff. It's just so cool. He's best known for having done a lot of work with Eerie, Creepy, and Vampirella in the 60s and 70s. Actually, even into the 80s, he stayed with Warren. And then I guess once Warren's shut down, he began to do stuff for other companies and all that. As a matter of fact, I think no, I thought it was here. Anyway, there was the Atlantis Chronicles he did for DC. There's a bunch of different ones, but he was absolutely stunning artist. Check it out. Just go online sometime and just look it up and see what you think. Now this here it's black and white, and in some ways that's how I like Maroto the best, because I remember him from being in Eerie and Creepy and Vampirella, which was of course black and white magazine. Now let's get up nice and close here. So there, see the nameless city, but he just have a close look, especially at this panel there in the lower right here. And look at that detail. Look at the beautiful composition. Not only was he a great artist, but he's also, because it's one thing to be a good artist and all that, but the other thing is being a good storyteller. Here, oh, and here is the typical Maroto, beautiful Maroto drawn woman there. But yeah, absolutely wonderful artist. Without doubt. I think he was actually one of the biggest contributors to the Warren magazines after Juan Ortiz, I think it was. Anyway, like I say, check it out and pick it up, buy it, and enjoy it. And of course, who doesn't love a little bit of Lovecraft, hey? Okay. Okay, the first one here this week to be peeled open is from the fine folks at Dark Horse Comics. It is yet another, oh, this is partially broken here, is yet another volume in the wonderful EC Archives series of books. They took over from some other company in Gemstone had done them for a while and all that. But actually, I like the job that Dark Horse has done with these books. This is volume 1 of the Vault of Horror. Now this one I do believe I actually have. Yes, I have this in the Gemstone edition, but I'll probably either trade it or give it away and keep these. The one thing I do like about these compared to the Gemstone ones was the Gemstone ones used to have the EC Archives ghosted over the title, which I never ever liked that. I like the way Dark Horse has put it down here. So this is I love Vault of Horror. Well, I love all the EC horror ones. And in this one, according to the back here, has Jack Davis, Wally Wood, Al Feldstein, Bill Gaines, Johnny Craig, Harry Harrison, Harvey Kurtzman, Graham Ingalls, and Jack Kamen. Jack Kamen actually is the father of Dean Kamen, who invented the Segway. Anyway, speaking of a Segway, let's segue into this book a bit. Oh, let's see what some upcoming ones. Oh, Weird Fantasy Extra. Oh, that looks cool. Okay, anyway, let's get right down to looking at some of the some people, I mean, I know some people are really big into the EC Archives, and they don't like sort of the surprise endings or whatever, or sometimes even people don't think it's sort of horrific enough. But there's just something very, very cool about EC Comics. I love the storytelling is fabulous, and it's funny, the lettering is all done using the famous Leroy lettering system, and I actually came in possession of 3 of those sets in the past week or so. Check this out. Look at that Johnny Craig cover. I love Johnny Craig's sense of design. Absolutely amazing. And Ghastly Ingalls, he's Graham Ingalls. When you look at his stuff, you can actually sort of see, it's like you can almost see a hint of Bernie Wrightson or Kelly Jones in his stuff. So I'm sure that Bernie must have read these as a kid. But all in all, another lovely book from Dark Horse in the EC Archives. Thank you very much, you fine folks there, for continuing this on, because when it was dropped by Gemstone in the in-between company, it was just like, oh my God, we're never going to see it ever completed again. But we're getting closer and closer to, well, to a lot of them anyway. And actually, I haven't seen a book for a while from one of my favorites of them all, as everyone knows, the Library of American Comics. Dun dun! And of course, this week it's Star Wars. These are very, very beautiful books. Let's take the dust jacket off here, just because it makes it easier to handle. Oh yeah, geez, actually there is a different strip on the back from on the inside. Well, that's kind of cool. Anyway, this by Al, the classic newspaper comic strips by Al Williamson and Archie Goodwin and Alfredo Alcala, who was one of my all-time favorite inkers and artists from the 70s. He was perhaps best known for his work inking on the Savage Sword of Conan. He did some absolutely amazing work there. He did a lot of other work with Marvel through the years, but I truly believe the Conan was some of the best stuff there. Now, let's see, as a matter of fact, we'll have a look here. Oh, as a matter of fact, this one looks like it's just all done by Alfredo P. Acala. I wonder if assuming that he must have done most of these then. Daily ILOGL. The funny thing is with the ILOGL anyway, whenever he would ink something, it became more or less his style anyway. So, but yeah, some cool looking stuff here. And Williamson himself, of course, he's another giant in the old comic book industry and in comic strips. Would you like to view it? Here you go. And there's a super cool cover there. Oh, come on, Wallace. What's the matter with you? And there, like I say, these opening ones here, these really are. I'll even get in a close up one of a strip there. ILOGL's drawing is extremely recognizable. I remember he did some of the Swamp Things actually with I think he might have even inked some of the Alan Moore Swamp Things, but ILOGL is still one of my favorites. Oh, and here we are on to Al Williamson, and he was cool. I loved his stuff. And yeah, I'm a big fan of comic strips. Now the reproduction on these two is pretty top notch. Sometimes I do look at stuff like some people say to me, oh, you were talking about this book or whatever, and you didn't talk much about the production and all that, which I figure I'll talk a little bit more about. But I found for the reproduction in just about every Library of American Comics book is top notch. Of all the books lately, I can't think of any one that's had like really bad production. Well, okay, outside of the Sky Masters one there from Hermes, some of those were actually pretty grody. You know, they were very rough and it looked like they had been scanned from photocopies of PMTs of the original artwork, and who knows, right? But like I say, every time the Library of American Comics puts out something, it's top notch, beautiful reproduction. I also love the introductions to them. They have great introductions. Because it's one thing to be reading a book, but I always like being able to read and pick up a little bit of, you know, a little bit about the artist or about the strip itself when I'm reading. So yeah, top notch. Way to go, Curtis and Dean and all you fine folks at the Library of American Comics. Keep them coming. Meanwhile, let's pop open another book here. This is Batman and the Outsiders, Volume 2, with art by Jim Aparo and Alan Davis. Actually, two of my favorite artists. Jim Aparo probably a bit more. Now, the Jim Aparo in this era of Jim Aparo isn't, to be quite honest, isn't my favorite. I'm more a big fan of the Jim Aparo from the late 60s, early 70s, the Spectre, the early Brave and the Bold, and Detective Comics, and that type of stuff. There we go. Nice cover, nice dust jacket. I love a good dust jacket, eh? Nice spine. And I always love these embossed sort of covers anyway. But let's crack it open here. Crack. But this, here we go. We'll start off with, there's a page of Jim Aparo art there. Cover art by Frank Miller. Ooh. But yeah, it's still I still like the, like I say, Jim Aparo hair. It's the latter years I really didn't sort of take to him. Ooh. Although this doesn't look anything like Jim Aparo from looking at it here. This looks more like Trevor Von Aden. Oh. Okay, well that explains a lot. Back to some Jim Aparo hair. Good old Jim Aparo art. Jim was a solid storyteller, I tell you. Love his stuff. Still to this day. To me, he rates right up there with with Neil Adams and some of the more realistic artists of the early 70s. But yeah, one of my favorites. Oh, and there's the Ellen Davis there. But yeah, it was, I can remember reading this, I don't know how many, I can't remember exactly how far I went in terms of the Batman and the Outsiders books at the time when they were coming out, but I did like the first few issues anyway. And like I say, anything with Jim O'Hara as the artist ain't that bad. Okay, I guess that's really about it here for this week. Oh, I did have actually over here. Oh, this was what left over from last week. The Life and Legend of Wallace Wood. I love this too because it's Wallace Wood as opposed to Wally Wood. Being a Wallace myself, I always hated being called Wally. Now my dad is also named Wallace, so it was easy for me as a kid because he would be called Wally, I would be called Wallace. Because when I came along, he'd obviously been on this earth for many years, and he was used to being called Wally, so to differentiate the two of us, they would call me Wallace, which to me sounds like cooler than Wally. Wally sounds like something out of Leave It to Beaver or whatever. So let's have a quick look at this. This basically is a lot of personal stories from different people about their experiences with Wally. Some great artwork. I've always been a big fan. Here, see, I'm even saying Wally. I've always been a big fan of Wallace Wood. There's a great picture of him. One of the more tragic figures in of comics. Surely one of the more talented ones, but definitely without doubt one of the more troubled souls of comics. But man, could he ever draw. Okay, that's it, I guess, folks. Once again, it's been another fun week talking comics with you, and now next week I don't think there's a lot of comics, a lot of books out next week, so I may actually supplement it with talking about maybe some masterworks or something. If anyone has any suggestions or anything, any ideas of anything else you'd want to see or hear me do or review here for the comic buying public out there, just ask me and I'll have a go at it. That being said, it's time to activate Mother Box. Yes. What do you think? Oh, she's saying that the boom tube is coming in any second here now. Yeah? Where is it? Where is it? Oh my God, look at it there. Look at the size of that. Wow. Okay, people. See you next week. Bye.